Welcome to How Women Inspire. My guest today is a dear friend who I have known for many iterations of both of our lives, and I cannot wait for you to meet her. She is a social entrepreneur committed to ending extreme poverty through women's businesses in Africa. For more than 15 years, she has helped Fortune 500 retail companies analyze customer and product data and leverage it to adopt strategies and operation solutions that drive for great, meaningful business results. She increases category sales, establishes world-class best practices, streamlines processes, and optimizes performance. She is bringing all of that corporate retail and e-commerce background to this work supporting women entrepreneurs. It is now a nonprofit organization with an e-commerce marketplace helping low-income women entrepreneurs scale companies from an informal economy to the formal economy. Mpho Hansjee, it is such a gift to be here with you today. Thank you for joining us.
I am so excited to be here with you, Julie, and I just know we're going to have a lot of fun today.
All right, well, let's get into it. But first, let's talk about fun. What is your song for the tough times, the good times? Like, what is it? Do you have a walk-on music?
Well, I had one that was more inspirational. And all of my inspirational and songs that get me through tough times are typically by the queen bee herself, Beyonce.
There we go.
But my one that really gets me going, both in moments of great pride and in moments that are very challenging, is this song that's actually not a big blockbuster by her. It's called I Was Here. And she is singing about how she lived, she loved, and she was here, and people will remember that she was here. So, when things are really wonderful and things are challenging, that either way, I feel like I did it. I took risks. I lived.
I think that's such a beautiful, that speaks so much to who you are. I met you when you were right a baby. You were right starting your professional life. And you are such a bright, brilliant intellect, only matched by your heart and your joy that you bring to everyone around you. I feel like you live fully at all times, and I love it. How is it that in such an early stage in your life, you and I worked on this microfinance and microenterprise work 20 years ago. So
crazy.
Yeah. How did that even get the seed get planted for that for you?
So, it's very emotional hearing you say that about me, because yes, you met me right at the cusp of my career. And I think at that time in my life, I knew what I wanted to do with my life. I had no experience and no business taking it on at that stage. And I'm really glad I didn't fully jump into it then. But when we worked at that organization, seeing the lives of women get totally, completely transformed and seeing you lead, I really am not, I probably can't say bad words, but I'm not kissing ass. You are someone who, the way you held the helm at that organization and how the results that the organization created laid a seed in me that made me realize that this is what I need for my home country. Like, this exact business model, these kinds of results are the kinds of results that are going to change the lives of many people and solve many global issues. So early on, I feel like most people my age at that time had not figured out what they wanted to do. And for me, it was hook, line, sinker. I don't know how I'm getting there. I don't know when, but this is it.
Nice. Well, and you said your home country was in South Africa, right? You were born in South Africa. Yeah. When did you come to the United States?
So born and raised in South Africa, I came over in 2011, and it wasn't even supposed to be permanent. So my husband and I were married 1 year, and we had an opportunity to travel for his work. And it was supposed to be 18 fun months of traveling the US. And things were good. They took really good care of us. They made it really easy to stay and help make a change through all the power that is Silicon Valley.
Yeah. Well, and so at that point, you could see the connection between the Silicon Valley entrepreneurial spirit, this sort of big transformation that happens, and how low income women can really use entrepreneurship as a way to build lives of dignity, right? But really, this is about gender equity at the heart for you, right? Why is that so important to you?
So, from a very early age, growing up in a developing country, you get to see both sides of the world, and it's so jarring. You drive on one street and there's millions and millions of dollar houses, and then a block later there's houses where there's no access to water and a decent education for children. And I think that big jarring, seeing that very often in my life, but also noticing that when I went to markets, it was the women who were at the stalls selling tomatoes or selling their crafts. Yes, some men, but it was predominantly women. So I think really noticing early that, hey, we have these big problems. And I'm seeing that most of the people impacted by them are women. That was very jarring for me. And we can get deep really, really quickly. But my mother died from a domestic violence. And it was my father who committed the crime. And when you know that from an early age, you think that maybe it's just you. And growing up and learning, well, femicide is actually a global issue. And this is happening all over the world, that when the doors closed during the pandemic, that more women were being abused. So for me, what I realized is this problem is so much bigger than the little pieces that I saw about it. And more so when I saw the flip side of that problem in micro communities, when they solved some of these issues, they gave some resources to women or they created opportunities for them. What you started to see was that created a solve for many other issues. Kids had better nutrition. Kids were getting educated. And then what's the ripple effect? It's endless. It's this cycle where women are the solution to all of the issues.
Yes. And for families to have two incomes, to have another source, a resource, and to balance out those power dynamics and the stress on men, right? Not to give, men a pass, but historically they've carried all the stress. They had no outlets for it. So they took it out on in their family situation, right? So we've kind of hinted to what you're working on. What is your organization? What are you doing? What is that beautiful bag that I bought for and about?
I love that you love your bag. And so my organization is called Women Enabled Enterprises. And I started an organization to help low-income women artisans basically enter the digital landscape for their business. So the heart behind really what we do is we want to create access. And the three ways that we create access is, one, it's access to retail entrepreneurship skills, which they otherwise would never have. The second piece of access is accessing international markets. So instead of them just sitting at their local market in Uganda or their local market in Kenya, how do we get your product in another country where people care about what they're purchasing? So we started an online marketplace called Shop Consciously, and that's where their products are sold. And then the last piece of access is accessing microfunds, and this is predominantly through partners. So we have really passionate impact investors that are giving small amounts, and they're listening to the pitches of these women and they're investing in their businesses, not for this unicorn company to come back, but so that she can grow her business, so that she can employ other people in her community and be self-sustaining.
I'm not asking for permission anymore. I'm not asking for a seat at the table. My friends, this is the first generation of us. We have a huge opportunity. We have power and influence and wealth. And we can start building the tables where we get the prime seats. Today, we want to invite you to join us as investors in venture. I know no one's asked you to do it before. It might be something that seems scary or foreign, but I promise you it's not that different than investing in a mutual fund where your retirement funds are. I want you to lean in and just learn a little bit more. How about making the commitment that in the next 12 months, you can give yourself 12 months to figure it out and to take a step. I want to invite you to be part of the new table of power and influence and wealth. you're invited. I want to sit at the table with you because we're going to make big change. We're going to make the world we've been dreaming of. So you and I are both big proponents of data. What are some of your sort of, I don't know if you're in this young stage in your organization yet, if you have any good data yet, but I'd love to hear, what are you seeing?
Absolutely. So right from the onset, as someone who comes from the data landscape in the retail world, this was something that was really important to our organization to actually be able to quantify our results. And right from the early stages, we've been able to sustain pretty much these same metrics in the last 3 years. And what we're seeing is more than half of the women that we serve are able to double their small business revenue just after going through our program. And what we're also seeing is that more than 80% of them are saying we're more profitable than we were prior to being in the program. And the last and the most, I would say, significant piece of data, which really is the bedrock of why we do the work we're doing, is that we're seeing that 30% of them are saying we are employing an average of 2 or more people into our business from our communities. And this to me is the power piece, is when she is climbing out of poverty herself, and then she's helping 2 others do the same. I think to me, that's the magical thing that has the potential to solve much larger scale issues.
Well, in the ripple effect of that, like, you're not just bringing in self-sustaining income for you and your family. You're seeing the community as an employer. You're the CEO of this enterprise. How does that change her family and the community around her? What do you see as the big wins outside of for her?
I think the massive wins is it becomes this collective unit to help everyone be successful. So all of a sudden, as we see one person be the proof of, oh, we don't have to live like this forever.
Yeah.
There may be a way for all of us. If she can, I can. And then it's this collective unit of a community trying to move forward, realizing that, oh, we can all support each other to grow and become self-sustaining and help the economy and help ourselves.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much for all that you're doing. And I think it's so fascinating is you and I worked on a US-based microenterprise and microfinance organization, and they were the same numbers. Like women on average hired 2.3 or had, created 2.3 jobs. So it's same in South Africa. And it sounds like I knew you were in South Africa. You're now in Uganda. Is that correct?
That's true. So we actually have emerging markets in 10 countries, very strong footprint in South Africa, massively growing in Uganda and Kenya. So right now our main bases are South Africa, Uganda, and Kenya. And then we are emerging in a couple of other countries like Ghana, really, really proud to be growing in Zimbabwe and Tanzania. So there's a couple of other pockets that really want what we have to offer. And we know that there's potential to grow there as well and create an impact.
Well, that's magnificent. You said you're building connectivity with retail customers, if you will, in the United States or all over the world. And is it one-to-one? Is it B2C, if you will?
Absolutely. So our primary focus is business to customer, and it's here in the US. It isn't global quite yet, but we'll get there. We'll get there.
All right, good. Well, she's taken over the world, everyone. You heard it here first. So I would love to hear a little bit about the rest of what you work on in life. What do you do when you're not working? I think I've seen some babies and a little love for wine on occasion, but tell me what else you're up to.
Absolutely. So my favorite things are, obviously, I'm a family woman. I have 2 little babies. They're not babies anymore. One is 9 and he looks like a teenager. I don't understand what is happening. And then I have a 6-year-old daughter, and they're both like my husband and I, and they want to achieve things, and they're both really driven and disciplined and excited, and they have fun. They have things that they are pursuing themselves. And I just love seeing them thrive in their arena. And my husband and I and our family loves travel. So I could travel all year long. That's what I want to do when I just want to be an advisor for an organization like mine. I want to be on the beach somewhere or in the cobble streets of Europe or in the dusty streets of like Nairobi, or, on a safari. Travel gives me life. It resets me.
Beautiful. So 10 years I'll give you. Get the first one off to college and the other one knocking on college, and you can start to really, do a little bit more of that. In my experience, as you know, Raul and I've been doing that a lot.
I'm jealous. I live your life, really.
What are your leadership principles that you carry with you that you feel like have made you so effective? Because you are stunningly effective.
So for me, I think compassion. And I think compassion just helps you see things from someone else's perspective. And if you lead with compassion, all the other things I feel like to me, maybe come naturally. So I can be quite a go-getter. I'm a little bit of an overachiever.
Yeah,
to my detriment. And I know you can relate. You're laughing because you've mentored me on this. But I think compassion has to be the core part that kind of grounds all my other leadership qualities. And when I lead out of compassion, I think that's when I'm leading at my best.
Oh my goodness. I see it. So besides travel, what else inspires you? And who inspires you?
I think many, many people, but besides travel, I think what inspires me, and I know it sounds really cheesy, so very quick fun story is we traveled for the Shop Consciously product to Uganda. We got to meet over 50 women that we had never met before in person, but we had been working with them for 6 months. And it was the most transformative time, 1 week of my life. And why it was really inspirational was just seeing regular women doing their best for themselves and their families. And it sounds very average, but to me, there's so many people around this world that have so much less, but so much more joy and pride in what they do. And I think we cried all week long and sang and danced and ate. So I'm inspired by women like that, regular women like you, Julie. You don't have to do the work you do, but you do. And so many people, hundreds of thousands of people have been impacted because you wake up every day and you're inspired to do something for other people. So for me, it's the regular woman.
My heart is just exploding. Your values, your respect for other people, your humility, combined with your extraordinarily vision for what's possible and your discipline and intellect. I see you having so many impacts on the world today and into the future, my friend. Well,
I do have to give you a quick example of one of my favorite women who also really inspires me. She's a graduate we worked with about 2 years ago. Her name's Elizabeth. She's out of this world, remarkable. Okay. She lives in this auto mall village where there's a ton of auto malls and they dump tires everywhere. So she's actually sent me pictures of, when she looks out her yard, there's just piles and piles of old tires that were dumped. And I remember when she came to our program, she wasn't sure what she wanted to do, but she figured out, I'm going to make something with these things because it makes me sick that they'll never decompose. It's ruining the environment. It's ruining our neighborhoods. It's everywhere. And she literally started to carpenter these ottomans out of recycled. She would go and pick up all the dump tires. She washes every single one of them. I give you my word, and I will send you this picture. These ottomans look like they're off of a Pottery Barn catalog. And she lines them with rope and she decorates them. And I have one in my house. I have plenty of customers who love theirs. And it's like, okay, so you're creating sustainability for yourself and you're helping solve environmental issues. You're amazing.
Isn't that what women entrepreneurs do, though? I mean, we have a venture fund and you're part of it. And I see all these companies and that is always part of the drumbeat. Like everybody, and they almost sort of take it for granted that, of course I'm having sustainable business practices. Like, no, you don't understand. This is the big deal and we need more of this. That's beautiful. You went through the Women Leaders for the World Fellowship. Well, you and I've done so much together. We went to Cuba together.
Oh, magical
Women Leaders for the World together. You're making money on our first fund for How Women Invest. What are the things that you've experienced or people that you've met through your time with How Women Lead that have had a big impact on you?
Gosh, I think the credo kind of speaks for itself. And it's that every woman who I've met in this network emulates those values. I will tell you some of my biggest players, people who have connected us to people who have been instrumental in helping our work grow. I would say at least half of the people who are instrumental in helping us grow came from this network. Half of my board are How Women Lead Women. And a lot of my people who I count as my biggest confidants, and we meet every month or so to gab. We're Women Leaders for the World cohort entrepreneurs. We hold each other completely tight, and we message each other on personal matters to look after each other. So it's this ecosystem of I have your back, you have my back. Tonight, I'm going out for a champagne tasting with two of my Cuba sisters from 3 years ago. So it's an ecosystem every woman who is trying to do something needs.
Thank you so much for being part of our community. You are so special. Everybody who's listening here, you know, one of the greatest gifts you could have in life is to have Mpho in your life, have a woman like her. So definitely get involved, check it out, buy your ottoman, get your great bags. How can people find you, and what is next for you? Where are we going to see you into the future?
Absolutely. So you can find us on LinkedIn or on Instagram. It's at Shop Consciously or at Women Enabled Enterprises on both fronts. And we're very easy to find. So become a part of our network. We'll keep you in touch with the stories of the amazing women who are impacted just by you being interested in hearing about them. And what's next for us? Really, we, like everyone trying to navigate this change in the economy, we are trying to figure out, we realize now more than ever, more women need what we have than they did 5 years ago. So for us, we're really trying to break some ground on, I'm talking about going from the thousands to the tens of thousands to the hundreds of thousands. So really growing our impact in a massive scale. And I think it's just going to take a lot of brilliant minds to come together and figure out, how do we solve some of these issues for the women that we want to help? And how do we take this model that we've seen be successful and grow it in a massive scale? So I know that sounds very convoluted, but that's the plan.
Well, it's not to me. I mean, it's creating jobs, creating livelihoods, safety, and a ripple effect that supports an entire family and a community. It's beautiful. And we definitely need it everywhere. And this is our moment, my friends. All of us can be part of this solution. You can feel like you are the hero by buying a beautiful product from one of these women who are working so hard to make the world a better place for themselves and their families. Mpho, could you share a final piece of advice or wisdom? Another message?
Absolutely. I love what you just touched on, Julie. And it's is that I meet a lot of people at a couple of different speaking engagements, or talk to a lot of our donors, our partners. And something that seems very consistent, I remember I used to feel this. Sometimes the problems feel so big in this world, and it feels like you have zero influence over them. And I think my biggest set of advice for anyone in any field is, if you have a heart for something, you have influence over it. Your tiny actions matter. How you're using your dollars matter. What businesses you're supporting ultimately drives whether you want to move forward in the things that you care about or backward. So for me, it's like this positive perspective around, hey, my tiny actions actually do make a difference, good or bad.
Yes.
So it's thinking about deciding, where am I going to channel it, and what are the little things that I can do to help with the ripple effect.
You heard it here, my friends. Do the tiny thing, and that creates a ripple effect. You never know how big that wave is going to be. Thank you so much, Mpho, for all your inspiration and for all you're doing in the world. You are such a gift to all of us.
Thank you.